Magic fans, I'm Beef and welcome back to another Brawl gameplay video. And today we have a Nadu Winged Wisdom deck, a new card from Modern Horizons 3, and this card is absolutely bonkers. So what is it and what does it do? It's a 3 mana 3/4 with flying, which is already a very impressive rate, but then it has creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. So a few things to notice. One is, it says all creatures you control, so this includes Nadu, not entirely sure how to pronounce it. The ability triggering only twice each turn, and that's per creature. So if you have 5 creatures, for example, you'll be able to get 10 triggers, assuming you have 10 different ways to trigger it, or there's 10 ways to trigger it. And I think that one of the most broken things about it is the land enters untapped. It is incredibly rare that we see an ability that lets you ramp and the land not entering tapped. So that just makes it completely insane, in my opinion, and lets you do some pretty broken things. And what's really funny about this deck is on Arena it's actually weaker, because in paper and Magic Online, there's a couple of cards. Lightning Greaves, which is pretty much a staple in most Commander decks. It's a 2 mana. It's basically Swiftfoot Boots, but it does Shroud, not Hexproof, and it equips to 0. And there is another artifact called Shuko, which I think just gives a creature +1/+0, but it equips to 0. And because you can equip for 0, you can just rotate it around all your creatures every single turn and get every max value. We don't have something that costs 0 to equip, at least not repeatedly, so we just have to put up with cheaper equipments. So that is the name of the game, is target our own creatures with spells or abilities, get value, get ramp, get a draw, and if our opponent tries to remove our creatures, well, with target removal, then we're going to get that draw anyway. And if they do a removal spell Nadu, we get that trigger, and if then we do a protection spell Nadu, we get that trigger again. So not only are we whiffing their removal spell, we're basically drawing 2 cards. So it is just insane. So let's quickly go through the deck. First up, we have Ramp, pretty standard. Our Boral Grazer puts a land into play. Gilded Goose creates a food token, and we can sacrifice a food to add 1 mana of any colour. Utopia Sporal, Enchant Forest to add a mana of any colour. We do have a new Fanatic of Ronas I'm very excited to play with. A 2 mana 1/4, tap to add green. Then Ferocious, tap to add 4. And Ferocious means if you control a creature of power 4 or greater. And then you can eternalise it for 4. So if it's in the graveyard, you can exile it and create a copy. That's a copy of a card, except it's a 4/4. So basically it gets Ferocious by itself. We also have the two of the new medallions. So there's a medallion for each colour, which reduces the cost of that colour spell by 1. So we've got the green and blue version. Also Wilderness Reclamation in here. At the beginning, you've got end step, untap all lands you control. So we can make sure that we have all our lands up on our opponent's turn, so we can interact if we need to. Next up, we just have some counter spells. Pact of Negation. I like 3 steps ahead, because that +3 targets a creature, which means we get a Nadu trigger. We can also draw as well. Wash Away, a staple for all blue Commander decks. Counterspell, then Mana Drain, which is a strictly better counterspell. And then we do have some equipment. Equipment is an easy and relatively cheap way to trigger Nadu, as long as you have the mana. Bonesaw is a 0 cost equipment, but equips for 1. Lava Spur Boot, 1, and equip for 1. Plus, it gives our creature ward and haste. Leather Armour costs 1, but you can equip the 0, but only once each turn. Lost Jite, a powerful card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, reminiscent of Umazawa's Jite. Whenever a quick creature deals combat damage, put a charge counter on it, and you can remove a charge counter from Lost Jite to choose either untap target land, target creature can't block this turn, or put a +1/+1 counter on a quick creature. Put that +1/+1 counter on a quick creature will trigger Nadu as well. Reality Chip. We can reconfigure / equip it to a creature, and then once we can play lands and cast spells to the library. And then Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana, equip for 1, equip creatures, hexproof and haste. So if you have the mana, you can just cycle these through your creatures, and because they all equip for 0 or 1 apart from Reality Chip. And then if you get extra lands from Nadu, you can just carry on doing it. Next up, we have the target interaction, which we can cast on our creatures. Fate and Hope, we can cast on an opponent creature or as. Then everything else is usually gives hexproofs, gives indestructible. Vastwood Fortification is just put a counter on a creature, but we can play it as a land. Gaia's Gift puts a counter, and they gain a whole lot of keywords. Fight Rigging is a way to do it every turn, puts a counter on it, and potentially allows us to play something for free. Counting Ambush is a fight spell, which we can play as a land, but again, it's an instant fight spell, which is quite rare. But again, it does let us trigger Nadu. Then Risk Guard is a creature. When it comes down, you put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. So again, we can trigger Nadu twice. And then also creatures we control with a counter has tap for green. So a bit of ramp as well. Sarif just gives all our untapped creatures hexproof and tap creatures Death Touch, but also we can pay 1 and tap Sarif to untap another target creature or land, again triggering Nadu. And then we are in green-blue with a lot of mana, so we have Doppelgang as well, which lets us copy X number of permanents X times. So again, which if we target our own creatures, we'll be able to trigger Nadu, but we can also trigger copy our opponent's creatures. And next up, we have landfall payoffs. We will be getting a lot of lands. So Bristly Bill puts a counter on things. Roaring Earth also gets a counter on things. And these two will trigger Nadu because it's targeted. Scoot Swarm. When a land ETBs, we create a 1/1 insect creature token. But if we have 6 or more lands, we create a copy of Scoot Swarm. And it just skyrockets from there. Because, well, we'll be getting so many lands. Tyrus Provisioner gets a food or a treasure. Tyrus Tracker gets a clue, and when we sack a clue, we put a counter on it. And Tatiova is just draw a card, gain a life. Very, very powerful. And finally, we just have some good stuff. Cyclonic Rift and River's Rebuke can clear our opponent's board. Heroic Intervention gives all our permanents hexproof and indestructible. Ivy's a really good synergy with Nadu, because if we cast a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, we copy it and it targets Ivy. So if we cast a Blossom in Defense on Nadu and Ivy's on the battlefield, we can copy it and target Ivy, getting that value and getting an additional trigger from Nadu. Kinnan just doubles all our ramp essentially and lets us look for our deck for big things. Uro, a great way to get extra mana and also a big creature on the board later on. Kogler can fight. Hullbreaker Horror is just a horrible card to play against, and because we have quite a few instants, we can get that value from, well, it's not even instances, any cast a spell, we can counter things or bounce things. Seagate, a way to draw an extra land. Vaultborn Tyro, one of my favourite cards from recent sets. Nyx Bloom Ancient triples all our mana production. Titan of Industry, again, a great card that can destroy artifacts or enchantments or create extra tokens or gain 5 life. Turn Timber Symbiosis can play as a land, or we can look at the top 7 of the library, put a creature card onto the battlefield. If that creature's mana value 3 or less, we put some counters onto it. Last March of the Ents, again, just a great draw spell as well. We draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures we control, then put any number of creature cards from a hand on the battlefield. Because we have quite a few +1/+1 synergies, this can be draw 6, 7, 8 or whatever, and then put a lot of creatures on the battlefield. And then Crater Hoof, when it comes down, essentially we win. All our creatures get +X turn of turn with X and other creatures to control, and they gain trample, and the Crater Hoof itself has haste. Land is a bit different than usual. We have a lot of lands that target. We have a few lands that target. So Riptide Laboratory, we can bounce a wizard to our owner's hand. Nadu is a wizard, so not only can it be used to whiff removal, but it will trigger Nadu as well. We also have cards like Access Tunnel, which targets one of our creatures, which will trigger Nadu, and it will means if it's got power 3 or less, it becomes unblockable. Hall of Oracles, we can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature if we cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. So that allows us to trigger Nadu as well. So that's the deck. It is an incredibly powerful deck, which hopefully you will all see in the gameplay, and I will see you all in the gameplay. Up against Bristly Bill, so a landfall deck, mono green as well. And this is a keeper. We can turn 1 Elvish Mystic, turn 2 get down Nadu. They won't have a huge amount of interaction, but we can keep up Gaia's Gift if we need it. Yeah, we'll play out Nadu. And then next turn we can play out the Fanatic. Utopias Brawl. We'll say green. We'll hold Nadu back. There's Bristly Bill. So, what we'll do, I think, we'll play Otawara. We're going to play this on Nadu now. Because now Fanatic Aronis taps for 4. Only green though, but next turn we can get maybe a pretty big doppelgang. Maybe copy their commander. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'd have 10. And if we draw a land, that'll be 11. Which means we'll be able to copy 3 things. Oh, there is the land. So I think this lets us play X's 3. We will copy our Fanatic, their Bristly Bill, and yeah, our Elvish Mystic. We'll crack the Vista, let's get an island. Just in case I've already targeted Nadu twice. Cyclonic Rift can clear their board. So it's a pretty powerful turn, and on mono green they shouldn't have anything that can deal with it. That will do some damage. I'm fine taking 16. Because we will just Cyclonic Rift. Bounce everything back to their hand and then crack in for what wouldn't be lethal, I don't think, but we had so much mana with 4 Fanatic Aronises, so that's just 16 mana right there. So we could have drawn with Seagate Restoration, maybe done things with Reality Chip to get through our deck as well. So a really good result. Against Bruno, which I think is an equipment based deck. Boros often is in Brawl. I don't think we can keep this hand. We don't have any ramp, only 2 land, and then not much interaction. If we just had like a ramp artifact or mana dork, I think it would be a keeper, but we don't. This is better. Unfortunately, we can't play Grazer on turn 1 unless we draw an untapped green source. But we can Fable Passage for a forest, play Grazer on turn 2, get down an island, or do that straight away. We'll put down a Fable Passage now. Messed up a bit by putting the Pale Passage down because it came in tapped. I couldn't crack it. Should have put an island into play. But we will get another forest. Next turn we can play Nadu and keep up Ranger's Guile. Well, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to play out the Midnight Clock and play out Ivy, and hopefully she survives. Because then next turn we can play out Nadu, and then Ranger's Guile can be copied and target Ivy, and we can get double triggers if we need to. But that Champion of the Flame is going to be a bit of an issue, I think. Yeah, an 8/7 lifelink is going to be an issue. And they're going to take out Ivy. Yeah, that's annoying. We'll play out Nadu. Play out the boots. River's Rebuke is a really good draw. So is Rishkart. And then we'll attach the boots to the Grazer because we've already triggered Nadu twice. So next turn we can just bounce their entire board. We are going to take a massive hit. Yeah, let's just bounce everything. I'm going to play this as a land. Next turn we can Rishkart and get some triggers that way. Maybe play Tireless Tracker as well in case we draw any lands. They're at 46 and we're at 5, so we are quite behind. It's frustrating we didn't hit any lands from those triggers. We're going to have to chump, unfortunately. Well, let's play the tracker. And if we play out the Signet, we can still play Rishkart. Wow. Just no land at all. The problem is First Strike and Death Touch means Further Champion can take out anything. Yeah, I think we are done. Then we had to equip things for free and said First Strike and Death Touch. Just it was that was basically unbeatable. We couldn't even take it out. So a mono blue deck. So I imagine lots of counters and bounce spells. Not the easiest hand, as Castle Ventress will enter tapped. But let's keep it just in case we draw untapped land, because we can land our elves turn 1, and then maybe Nadu turn 2. It's not an untapped land, but alright. They're thinking about something. There's a commander. It is also not an untapped land. So once Jacob's transformed, you can play a card exiled without paying its mana cost. What do they reveal? Invoke the winds. Okay, we are struggling with mana, really. So I'm going to Ranger's Guile Nadu to see if we can hit a land. We cannot. For a deck that has over 40 lands in it. I'm going to need to keep hold of Shore Up for when they invoke the winds as well. But sometimes you just can't catch the breaks. We want to be able to bounce Jacob as well before they are able to transform it. Holy moly. They have their own Castle Ventress. We can't even afford to scry with it. I'd hope they're going to do that on Nadu. Well, finally we get a land. And we can put a counter on Nadu. We can get another land. Put a counter on Milano Elves. So at least we actually did something that turn. And then we can Cyclonic Rift their Jacob once they tap it to exile, if they have the land. Let's see if they do. Obviously, I'd quite like them to tap out, transforming. I assumed it would have gone on the stack. I'm really annoyed at that. I assumed it would have gone onto the stack and then I could have bounced it when it did. So we want to keep up 2 blue for counterspell. We'll swing in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 6, 7. We only have 7. So we can't even doppelgang for 2. So I think I'll just pass the turn. So obviously they'll play their most powerful card, but it's going to be for free, so... And if I knew we were going to draw the land and then 2 more land from Nader's triggers, I would have bounced the Hokeen's Insight and then played Kogla to fight the Jinkataxis. So I imagine they have some take extra turn spells in there. A Hullbreaker Horror can't be countered. Ah! Be gone. We will destroy the Hoking's Insight and then put a shield counter on Nadu, which didn't count as triggering it. And then we'll swing in with Nadu for the win. So yeah, we got there. I thought we were gonna struggle once they did transform Hoking. As I said, I assumed that would have gone onto the stack, and then I would have been able to bounce it. But it all worked out in the end. Muldrotha, so a graveyard deck. No ramp. So that's a mulligan. Still no ramp. In fact, this is even worse. Well, this is better, I suppose, but not by much. I think we're going to have to get rid of the Doppelgang. And I'll play the Shifting Woodland. Play out the Lotus Cobra. They've got their ramp. Plough Otawara. Add a green. And then we'll get in with the Cobra. And we keep up Blossom in defense in case they try and remove one of our creatures. Mapper of that was basically their entire turn taken. We'll put it on green and swing in. Could have bounced the Nissa, but I'd rather wait till we can overload it. Which we are a couple of turns away from. Oh, Titan's not fun. I think that Mulligan's going to really damage us. Well, Rishkar's a good draw. Yeah, I'll keep that on board just because it means we know we're going to get it. And I will... How much do we have? 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7. It's important we hit our land drops. Swing in. So I'll resolve that. So we keep Nadu. They do de-rampers, which is Massively unfortunate. But we can play our Emerald Medallion. And then we can just swing in. And keep up Ranger's Guile again. We can have Shifting Woodland become a copy of something in our graveyard. We haven't really got anything worth it though. Yeah, that's fine. Can't do much about that. Well, I think I'll just bounce their entire board. They can replay Titan with a land. Oh, now we draw all the land. Well, this is annoying. Cavalier of Thorns also having reach. At least we can scry with Castle Vantress. Don't need the Mystic, don't need the Island. Well, we can make Riskar unblockable, which will draw us a Wilderness Reclamation. I'll keep him back. We are quite far behind. So we'll block like that and see what they do. We're down to 13. Wow. I'm playing out my hand just so in case hopefully we draw something good. Which I don't think we're going to be doing. Yeah, I think that's game over. Against Lalia. Well, we have some ramp. So we can turn to Fanatic. and then turn 3 Nadu and keep up. Tell me safekeeping. Play with Temple of Mystery first. Scry. See what's on top. Sapphire Medallion. Sure. It's inadvertent ramp essentially. I will play out the Fanatic. Having Rivendell come into play tapped is going to be really irritating. But there's not much we can do. They are going to be able to play out Laelia. I was hoping to keep up Mana Drain. I think I'll wait for now and keep up Gaia's Last Gift and Tamio's safekeeping. And that means Fnatic now does tap for 4. We'll play out Kinnan as well. And we'll play out Otawara. And next turn we'll be able to spin Kinnan. We also have a Mana Drain if they play anything big and scary. Which they are not. So I will just scry. Don't think we need Pact. Sure, I'll keep a Crater Hoof. There won't be enough to win. Tell you what, we'll just keep Mana Drain and Safekeeping open at the end of our opponent's turn. We can Kinnan. That's a good thing to Mana Drain. Yep. They didn't do anything, and then we slow rolled it because they didn't really do anything. So when we countered their one big thing. And Fnatic Aronis could block Laelia, and Nadu could kill Laelia by blocking. Against Yuma, I've never played against Yuma, so I'm not sure what he does. Of course, 1 less each land card in your graveyard. When it enters or attacks, you sacrifice the land. If you may sacrifice land, if you do draw a card. When a desert card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 4/2 green plant warrior token. So a bit like Gitrog. We're on the play. We've got Medallion, which is kind of ramp, and Swiftfoot Boots is a great thing to have, and Midnight Clock is actual ramp. We'll play out the boots. They've got their own boots. I'll play out the Garen Brig. And I think I'm just going to pay out the medallion. And next time we can play Nadu and put the boots. Well, we get 2 triggers. And Path to Exile ramps as well. We might as well play out the Bone Saw. Next turn we can replay Nadu, then attach the boots and the Bone Saw. Cyclonic Rift can deal with a Swiftfoot boots, basically because it doesn't target. The hexproof it gives isn't going to be an issue. But they are tapped out. So let's play out Nadu. Equip the boots. Equip the Bone Saw. Swing in for 4. Next turn with an untapped land, we can Cyclonic Rift if we need to. Ancient Green Warden, the Panharmonicon for lands. There's an untapped land. I don't think we really need to Cyclonic Rift now, but I'm going to play out Wilderness Wreck. And Paradise Druid. What I will do is move the Bone Saw to the Druid. And then back again. And I'll play out the Roaring Earth. Don't get a Surveil twice. So we've got Shore Up and Cyclonic Rift available, depending on what they do. This might be a Cyclonic Rift time. Sure, pay 2 life. Get another trigger. More lands. We will win. We're going to play Craterhoof. Well, we'll play Last March of the Ents, draw a ton of cards, play Craterhoof, smash in, which probably would have been enough. But it's Cyclonic Rift usually has that effect. Effect and pay instant speed. And obviously with Wilderness Reclamation, it means we would always just have that available. So a really good result. Oh, Rankle. Mono black, so going to be lots of removal. But this is an okay draw, I think. We are on the draw. Don't have any ramp, but Sapphire Medallion can reduce the cost of Nadu. And we do have ways to trigger Nadu. Nyx Boom Ancient is always fun if you get the bit place you can play it. I'm going to keep up Ranger's Guard and Vastwood Fortification because I imagine they have removal. So I can't actually block that. But I can whiff that. Get 2 triggers. Luckily, Nadu's got a hexproof. Play out leather armor. Put Bonesaw on it as well. Play out a Mystic. And what I will do is keep up Otawara. And if they attack with the fairy with the sword attached, which they will, I'll just bounce the fairy. Or do I bounce the sword? Oh, I'll bounce the fairy. Oh no, it has protection from blue, but the sword doesn't. That's fine. We only have 7. Sure. I am sure they will remove this if they have it. Yeah, let's put it on the Ancient, make it a 5/6. Oh, it's not the worst thing in the world. And let's play out. Let's keep hold of the county ambush. Because it's instant speed, we might be able to use it to take out a rankle. Get another trigger. Tyrant's a great draw. And we'll play out the Fanatic. I'll keep back Nadu just because it can block Rankle. The sword is back. It's fine, we get a trigger. Shore up's always useful. I'll swing with the Gifted Aetherborn. I know it with the Vaultborn Tyrant. I know it will be blocked by the Aetherborn, which has Death Touch, but obviously we do get the token back. If they want to block it, that is. That's fine. Counterspell is always nice. And let's shore up. Doesn't really matter. We will return the sword to their hand so we can block the fairy and make them replay the sword. So a bit of a grindy game, but we got there in the end. So a really good result. Hello Magic fans and welcome back to the wrap up. So in the intro I said this card is bonkers and the numbers match up to that. We played 21 games. Of those 21 games we won 17 times. 90% win rate on the play, 70% win rate on the draw. And unusually for us, we actually managed to play a reasonably equal number of times on the play and the draw. Just an absolute value engine. And the games we lost weren't really due to Nadu not doing its thing. Like the first game we lost, which was before I started recording, we got like 5 triggers from Nadu and didn't get hit a single land. And in fact, after that game, I went back and removed a couple of cards and put in 2 more lands. Because while I think we had 38 lands originally with like 5 MDFCs. Obviously, the MDFCs are not lands on the front side, so Nadu's ability wouldn't hit them. So I took a couple of cards out and put up the 40 lands, but kept those MDFCs in. One of the games we lost, I think we just got run over, which happens if we sometimes have a bit of a slow start. But this is one of the decks that the longer the game goes on, the stronger it gets, because you just ramp mana, you draw cards, and the more stuff you draw, the more playables you have, and it makes your creatures so hard to remove because it just turns everything into a 2-for-1. They use one spell to get rid of a creature, you draw a card, and there are times where you have like a Blossom in Defense, so you essentially whiff their removal, but you still get the trigger from their removal and from the card you've just played. So that's why it's bonkers. If I had to rebuild this deck again, and I think I will because I had so much fun playing it, I would probably remove some of the ramp, creatures, and maybe artifacts. One, because this is one of the few decks you don't necessarily need them. You get so much mana anyway. And two, it seems like we never actually have them in our opening hand. And they're cards that later on, they're just not really impactful. Like, I had Utopia Sprawl in my opening hand a couple of times, but didn't have any forests to play it on. So maybe I'll remove that and maybe like Elysian Caryatid or something like that. And what I would put in is more ways to repeatedly trigger Nadu. So if anyone watched my Geezer deck, if you haven't, I would encourage you to go and do it. Geezer is a really powerful commander. One of the things I lent on was what I called repeatable crimes. Having removal is a great way to commit a crime on your turn and your opponent's turn, but it relies on, one, you having mana up or leaving mana up, two, your opponent having a creature at all or something to remove, and three, having something worth removing. You don't necessarily want to use a removal spell on a 1-mana creature. So I try to put in repeatable ways to commit crimes, like Lord Skitter and Graveyard Trespasser and Viconia, which was, I think, the MVP of the deck. Ways that you can trigger, and all they require is cards in your opponent's graveyard, which you're always going to have, and that way you can repeatedly trigger crimes whenever you want. I think I would look into more ways to doing that. We had a few ways with Access Tunnel, and there was another land, and Fight Rigging's a really good way to do it, because you're getting a counter every turn. But the actual MVP of the decks were Bristly Bill and Roaring Earth. I only actually played Bristly Bill once in 21 games, the only time we saw it, but Roaring Earth does the same thing of, when a land ETBs, you put a counter on something, because that targets, you trigger Nadu. If another land comes into play from Nadu's ability, you get those landfall triggers again, you put another counter on. So not only are you growing your board and growing your creatures, you're getting those draw triggers as well from Nadu and ramping, and it can go. And I've had people scoop, well, I've just done it like 5 times in a row because I've just hit loads of lands. I might look into some of the equipment that attach to a creature you control when it ETBs. That would trigger Nadu. I'm fairly sure for Mirrodin and Living Weapon won't trigger Nadu, because I think they say when it ETBs, create a token and attach it to it. It doesn't target the token, so it wouldn't trigger Nadu. So maybe I'd look into a few more equipment and a few more ways to repeatedly trigger Nadu. But even without that, you can look at the videos, you can see the numbers, just how powerful Nadu is. It is absolutely bonkers. I had an absolutely fantastic time playing this deck. I really hope you all enjoyed it. And if you did, please remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video.